What's going on, Wolfpack? Welcome back to another episode of Market Watch Mondays. As always, I'm your host, Mike, at Mike Me Up with 2 P's on Twitter. If you're ever cruising the Twitter streets, want to give me a holler, feel free to go on there and at me and talk football. You want to have some fun. Today, first of all, happy 4th of July. I guess you guys will be seeing it tomorrow, which is Monday, but, like happy belated 4th of July. Hopefully, I think it's an observed holiday, so if you guys have some time off, congratulations, spend with your family, have some time, grind some drafts, do whatever you want to do to make yourself happy. I am here at the Sacramento offices, the satellite offices of Sacramento for BDGE, recording for the Market Watch Mondays episode. It's not going to be a long one today, but I feel like I have a pretty cool topic that I want to talk about that kind of goes along with some of the prior episodes I discussed on like trading strategy, trading back, startup strategy. So if you haven't seen those videos yet, make sure you go on back those couple of weeks and flip through those, because this will be closely related to that and kind of like tie together a fulsome startup drafting strategy for you, hopefully as the season comes rolling along. All right, but before we get to it, man, y'all know what time it is. Hit that intro. All right, so I just got back from a friend's wedding. I guess my girlfriend's friend's wedding in San Francisco. Not directly in San Francisco, but like just outside San Francisco area. It was pretty awesome. It was like a very long wedding. Went from like 1 o'clock or maybe like noon to like 9-10 p.m. So it was a full day. But man, weddings are fun, man. Weddings are fun. You get to go out there, you get to have a couple drinks, show your dance moves out on the dance floor, have some yummy food. So look, man, it's all good at the end of the day. But we just got back today, and now I'm back in the studio recording for y'all. Happy to be here. Happy Independence Day. After this, I'm gonna head on over to the living room with my girlfriend. I'm gonna put on the Independence Day movie. Those of you guys who haven't watched that, for those of you youngins out there, make sure you guys go check that shit out, man. Will Smith, one of my favorite one of my favorite movies by him. It's an Independence Day tradition for me to just watch it. Just a rewatchable movie. It's entertaining. It's fun. It's fun to watch that oorah pump up speech as well. So
we're going to survive. Today we celebrate our Independence Day.
That's all I'll be doing after this, but you guys didn't come here to listen about my day. You don't give a shit about that. I understand. I'm here to talk about Dynasty strategy, all right? This is something that came up in the Patreon chat. Either someone DM'd me about it or it was in the suggestions box for content. But for those of you guys who don't know, there is a Patreon, Wolfpack Patreon, patreon.com/ourpack. Got about 300-something people in there constantly talking Dynasty strategy. We're talking redraft as well right now for best ball, but talking trades, drafts, roster construction, roster review, etc., all that good stuff. If you guys want to become a Dynasty degenerate and really step up your game, make sure you guys hop on over there, check me out. I'm always in Discord and hopping in, talking shit with the fellow fellow Patreon and Wolfpack members, and it's been a pretty cool community, pretty cool to be part of that. So if you guys are into that, make sure you hop on over, check it out. If not, no worries. Thank y'all for coming here and supporting my videos. All right, so let's get into today's episode. So I've done a lot of content on productive struggles and how to trade back. And I think for the most part, at least from what I'm gauging of those of you in the Patreon, even those of you in the YouTube comments that have commented from time to time, you kind of got the trade back part down pretty pat, right? Like everyone knows what you're supposed to do. You go into the draft, you try and trade your first round pick for a third, a fifth, and a future first, a rookie first, right? That's my go-to fire out strategy. If I have to add on a couple things on the end, I'm happy to do that. Maybe you toss him back a 10th round pick, toss him back a future rookie second round pick. But within that type of construct, people are kind of getting the idea of loading up on those middle rounds. So rounds 3, I call them the money rounds, but rounds 3 to basically round 8. But really the crux of it is like round 3 to round 6. That's where I think a lot of the value is this year in terms of the startup strategy. So right now, people are kind of doing all that, and I'm watching you guys doing it. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. You guys are executing. People are telling me, like, look, I haven't even made a pick yet. It's like the 3rd or 4th round of my startup draft, but I have like 4 or 5 future first-round rookie picks in 2022 and 2023, and it's awesome. I love all that, right? So that is the base of what I want to talk about. You got to first get that part down pat in order to move on to the next part. But I just wanted to give you a quick refresher of what that first part is, right? Just accumulating those rookie picks and getting as many picks in the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds as possible. Once you've done this, I think, the next the next evolution of that is understanding when to trade up. Like, what is the point of having all these picks in the middle rounds if you don't actually leverage them to navigate the draft, right? The only reason, not the only reason, but the main reason why I like trading back and getting a lot of picks in those middle rounds is because it lets me control the draft in those points, right? If you have 4, 5, 6 picks from rounds 3 to 6, you're going to be able to move up and down in that draft much more easier than someone else because you have multiple anchoring spots. I've talked about this before when it comes to rookie draft strategy, right? Like the reason why I like having a bunch of picks in rookie drafts without actually having to use them is because I have a lot of anchoring points to trade back and like catch the end of my tiers without missing out on my guys, right? And if you guys don't know what tiers are, go on, check out the Patrons. I have tiered rankings, which is like basically showing tiered breaks for when players, when in my opinion, when players drop off in terms of talent. And people in the same tier is like relatively similar. You know, there might be small differences, but I wouldn't really trade one for the other. That's how I think about tiers. That's how I think about trading. So the whole point of having all those picks in the middle rounds is now you get to these money rounds and you have incredible value in these rounds, right? I'm telling you, like people are reaching really high for quarterbacks this year in the first and second rounds. So what that means is a lot of this studly talent gets pushed in the third round. Guys like DeAndre Swift, guys like Antonio Gibson, right? Guys like that are getting pushed in those middle rounds, like even Waller, George Kittle, etc. And you're able to maneuver to catch those guys. And when I do a trade back strategy, that doesn't mean I never trade up, right? That's not what that means. It just means that I like to trade out of the earlier rounds because those assets, as I've mentioned before, are very capped in value, and the high upside value assets are in the rounds 3 to 6. But once I've traded back and I have all those anchoring points and I have all those assets, I'm more than willing to trade up to grab a guy. If I feel like someone's fallen too far, like let's say even in the second round, I felt this year many times where Saquon Barkley has fallen too far. And if when I see that, what I'll do is I'll make a trade and I'll trade up and grab that guy. And it doesn't hurt me as much to trade up because I've already gained future rookie picks. I've already gained multiple picks in the middle rounds, right? So I've already kind of de-risked my profile to actually allow me to consolidate up a little bit more to capture that falling value, right? And those are the rounds that value is really falling. But the way I maintain my, I guess I would call it my diversification and like my depth, the whole reason why I like trading back is to gain that depth, is I don't like doing like 2-for-1s when I trade up, right? I love doing like 2-for-1s and 3-for-1s when I'm trading back, and those are still fair deals. Like when I give up like 1.01, I get like a third and a fifth and a future first or whatever. I like doing that. But when I'm trading up, I'm trying to keep the amount of picks that I have in those middle rounds as stable as possible. And I'll give you some examples of how to do this, right? So let's say I've traded out of the first, I've traded out of the second, right? And I have like, 2 third-round picks, 2 fourth-round picks, 2 fifth-round picks, and a couple future firsts, right? Those future firsts, I'm not really going to use to trade up. Like those are kind of in my vault, all right? I've taken those assets, I've gotten those rookie firsts, and I've locked it up in my vault. Those are good to go. I'm going to sit on them until at least next year, unless there's like an incredible amount of value or someone's willing to overpay for them, which they usually aren't because, people are giving them away during startups versus trying to acquire them. Unless that happens, I'm just not trading those. So then if you think about it, what is my asset of like, picks to use to move up, right? And really what it comes down to is those bunch of middle round picks. And the way I use them to trade up is I'm willing to like kind of push those middle picks back further and further to maybe take incremental gains to the top. And it all comes back to one really simple philosophy that I've been talking about, since whenever I started this like trade back strategy. When you're trading back, a move up in earlier rounds is always worth more than an equivalent number of moves up in later rounds. So what I mean by that is if you move back 10 spots in the first round, that's worth more or should be worth more than moving up 10 spots in the third round or 10 spots in the fourth round. So that's why when I try and go and send offers, I need to make sure I'm fairly compensating the counterparty for giving me that move up. But I don't want to give up future like additional picks, and I don't want to give up rookie picks. So how do I do that? I do that by giving up more moves up in later rounds. So one of my favorite things to do is when I'm trading back, I'm adding picks. So I'm adding, I trade back from the second, and I get like a 4th round pick and a 5th round pick. So therefore I did a 2-for-1, right? And now I have 2 4ths and 2 5ths. But when I want to move up from like the 4th to the 3rd, let's say, I don't want to give up a 5th and a 6th. What I want to do is I want to give them like, okay, well, let me move up from my 4th round pick to a 3rd round pick, right? That's a move of 1 round, let's say 12 spots. And then what I'll do is I'll say, okay, well, I'll let you move up from like your 8th round pick into my 6th round pick. So that's like 2 rounds. So you get to move back 1 round here and move up 2 rounds later. And I think that's a very, very simple construct that people can kind of get behind. I think, back in the day, like when I first started, like maybe 2-3 years ago, people would trade as if a move back in an earlier round is almost the same as a move up in the later round. So people would do like, I'll give you my 1st and my 4th for like your 2nd and your 3rd, right? So that's like an equivalent move 1 round up in each round. And I'd never understood that because I'm like, okay, well, you're getting way better studs at the top of the draft. So moves up there. Jumping tiers to the top of the draft, if you look at my ranks, like jumping tiers to the top of the draft means way, way, way more than jumping tiers later on in the draft. So that's why I always kind of go with that construct, right? And the way to get out of that construct when you're trading back is like just to get multiple picks. But if you're trading up, you still need to make sure you're compensating your counterparty for that move. So you're not trying to rip people off, right? Like none of my strategy is based into going into a draft and trying to rip people off. That's not how you build a sustainable trading partnership. That's not how people don't want to come to you if all you're looking to do is rip them off, right? So you just got to make sure you fairly compensate them for those moves up. And because you were able to trade back and because you were able to acquire multiple picks in the middle rounds, you can afford to drop a couple more picks in those later rounds. You can afford to drop a couple more because it's still going to give you the depth, and you're still going to get talented players in like the 7th, 8th, even 9th and 10th rounds. You're still going to get some like 2nd round level talent players, like rookie pick 2nd round level talent players. And now, like as I'm watching a lot of my startup drafts, like you're still going to be able to get like a lot of really good veterans there, right? Like in those late single digits, early double digit rounds, you're going to get some nice like upside tight end plays. You're going to get stuff like that. So it's not like you're drafting bums, right? You can get someone like Ronald Jones, for example, in like the 10th round. So these are not literally bums, but it's a very, very cool way to do it. And there's another way to kind of do that same type of contract where you move up earlier in an earlier round and give up more picks and more moves up in later rounds is you could do like a 2-for-1 move, right? So what I mean by that is, let's say Zach Wilson, right? Zach Wilson has now fallen to the 4th round, right? And to me, that's an incredible value because I think he should be going to like the 3rd round and definitely not like 1 to 2 rounds behind a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance because, I mean, the draft capital is there for him, right? So let's say he falls in the 4th round, right? And you're sitting there with 2 5th round picks, 2 6th round picks, right? Like 2 7th round picks or whatever. What you can do is offer them the trade to go from let's say your 5th round pick to the 4th round pick, right? And then allow them to move their like 7th round pick into your 6th round pick and their like 9th round pick into your 8th round pick, right? So that's what I mean by a 2-for-1 move, right? You're not giving up 2 picks, but you're giving up 2 moves in multiple rounds, and they're getting that, they're getting that return by moving back. But you're also not sacrificing your depth. You're basically just shifting back. Because truth be told, like when you get to those middle rounds, you're going to want to trade back anyways, right? And this is a way of trading back to get the guys you want earlier on, so to speak, because you've already acquired that depth. And that's the key. That's why I say you have to make sure you get the first part of the strategy down pat. And the first part of the strategy is knowing how to trade back. How to trade back without like crippling yourself. Now, I think these days, like the trade back strategy is getting more and more popular and more people doing it. So you're going to get into some leagues where people are just like kind of like outbidding each other and just like lowballing each other in the trade backs. You don't want to get into a war like that, right? If that happens and like you look at the guy that's on the board and, he's a really good player. Let's say Saquon Barkley falls in the 2nd round, right? And you're not getting any good offers. And the best offer you have is like maybe like a 4th round pick and a 5th round pick or like a 4th round pick and a 6th round pick, right? But nothing else on top. Then what I do is I'll draft the player. Like I'll draft Saquon Barkley. I'll draft if I'm in the 5th round, I'm getting good offers. I'll draft Michael Thomas, right? Because I'm still betting on these elite talents to kind of like play out and get you the returns in season. You don't have to always like force yourself to trade back. Like that's not what the trade back strategy is about. And I've seen people take it to the extremes. And at that point, you're basically destroying value because you got to hope that those later round picks smash in the way that a top end talent does in order for you to make that return back. All right. But if you did execute the trade back strategy, right, that's the prerequisite. Now you're sitting there in the middle rounds with an abundance of anchor points. That's when you can just maneuver. Like use the spots instead of trading away depth to go up. Just use your anchoring points in the draft to navigate and move up and down in that draft. So like shift back to later rounds in order to get your guys up top. Right. This is the most efficient the most effective draft strategy that I've used over the years, right? And the reason why it's effective for me is because, like I said, you don't have to sacrifice the depth in the back end, and you've already accumulated those rookie picks, right? So that's like already in the vault. Those things are treasury bills already gaining ROI for you, right? So anything you do from here on out is kind of just gravy. So, trading back and then still landing studs like Saquon Barkley, trading back and then still landing studs, like Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, who you can easily do in like the third or fourth rounds, and still rounding out a contending roster. That is the magic that can happen this year because of how much people are overvaluing quarterbacks, and particularly how much people are just going crazy on youth. Like, look, Trey Lance, I love Trey Lance, right? Justin Fields, I love Justin Fields. There's no world I'm going to draft him in the first round. I can't do it because there's just no upside there. All you have is downside and bust risk, and I just don't want to do that. As much as I love like Cam Akers, for example, someone whose prices like just skyrocketed, going in like the first round, early second of Superflex drafts. Is that fair? Like, yeah, look, a couple months ago I told you like he's going to get there, but now that he's there, it's like I've already acquired him at a prior cost of like, third round pick or whatever it is. I don't need to take that risk anymore. I don't think you should really take that risk either. So, and because of the youth movement, because of all the quarterbacks, all rookie quarterbacks, with the exception of Zach Wilson, for whatever reason, he's still undervalued. But with the exception of Zach Wilson, people are really, really reaching up, and it's forcing a lot of value into those middle rounds. So being able to navigate and dominate those middle rounds is really the key to winning your startup draft, right? Like, it's easy to draft in the first round, right? Everybody knows who's going to go. You're going to have Patrick Mahomes, you're going to have Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, Christian McCaffrey, even though he's still undervalued. But people know what's going to happen there, right? It's the middle rounds that really separate the good drafters from the like average to not so great drafters, right? The guys that are willing to like kind of pay up a little bit to navigate those middle rounds and get their guys. And then when there's a lot of guys falling, continuing to trade back and acquiring small incremental pieces, whether it's second round picks. Like, you don't have to stop trading when rookie firsts are done, right? Like, rookie second round picks still have value. Rookie third round picks even still have value because they provide you the flexibility to move in your future drafts. They provide you the anchor points to navigate up and down in your drafts, right? So navigating those middle rounds, part of it is trading back, but the other part of it is trading up to get your guys. When you see a tier break coming, right? Let's say you're looking at my tiers, right? And you see you're sitting in the middle rounds and you have like Calvin Ridley, like Allen Robinson, Mike Evans, like all those guys in the tier, and 3 of them rip and there's only 1 guy left. You have the ammo, you have the capital, and you have the flexibility to move up and snag that last guy, right? That's the whole point of using tier-based rankings, is you can find and navigate to where the tier breaks are to get the value. You don't want to necessarily jump up and trade up for the top of the tier, right? Because the whole point of your tiers is the top of the tier and the bottom of the tier isn't too much separating. So you want to wait till it falls off, because then it costs you less and less to move up and get those guys. So I really wanted to cover this because I think, a lot of people just think like trade back strategy is all about trading back, right? It's all about constantly moving back, sitting on the clock every time you're on the back on the clock to try and get more future picks. And yes, that's a big part of it, but I feel like, the other part of it that people don't really talk about as much is the trading up component, right? And the whole reason of trading back early is so that you have the capital, the ammo, and the flexibility to trade up in those middle rounds. And you've already de-risked your entire team by getting those rookie picks, right? And don't use those to move up, right? Just lock those away. You've done the work. You've done the work for someone else to give you that free upside, so don't yield that free upside back. But because you have multiple picks in those middle rounds, and because if you have multiple picks, that means other people don't, right? So they're gonna be starving, right? The people that traded away those mid round picks, when they see the value that falls, they're gonna be like, "Fuck! I should not have traded back. I should not have traded up." And 2, I need to get back in to like get more guys, and that's how you get more rookie draft picks. That's how you get, go from the 3rd round, trade your 3rd round pick into like a 5th round, a 6th round, and like a future 2nd round pick or something like that, right? That's how you get those types of trades. And those guys are constantly digging a hole, because once you've dug that hole, it's like you're kind of fucked, because you keep going. And and in their minds, like the only way to get back is like, well, I'm already committed to the all in, and there's so many good, valuable guys available. I still need to get back in to get my new guys. So that's when they start trading their rookie picks like 2 years out. That's when they start trading like their 7th, 8th, 9th round picks. And then the more they trade up, the less and less depth they get, the less and less margin for error they have, and the more and more valuable you owning their future rookie picks becomes, right? So, But those guys are going to be starving because you have all of the picks in the middle rounds. You're going to be the one that has maneuverability, right? The difference between you and someone else that didn't trade back, that also didn't trade up, is they only have one pick in that round. They come to the 5th round, right? They come to the 6th round. All they have is one choice. And when you have one choice in those rounds, I'm telling you right now, it's tough. It is tough to have to try and make a choice between like, you know, a Brandon Ayuk or like an Allen Robinson or, you know, Mike Evans or, you know, Michael Thomas and like an Allen Robinson and a TJ Hawkinson. Like there's so much value there. Or Javonte Williams. It's tough having to make the choice to just pick just one. And if you've been there, trust me on this. If you've been there, and I've been there, if you only have one pick in those rounds, you don't want to trade back. It's really hard to trade back. I mean, most of the time I still do because I just commit to the process. But it's really hard to trade back because you want to get your one guy. And if you trade back, you know you're not going to get any of them. But because you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 picks in those middle rounds, you know that you can trade out, trade back, and still get one of your guys. And that's the beauty of having the middle rounds. And to me, Dynasty, startup drafts, it all comes down to this. Right? Middle rounds of Dynasty is where the money is made, right? Everyone is focused on the top. Everyone is focused on getting their studs. Trust me when I say this. Winning the middle rounds is the difference between winning a championship and losing a championship, and it's the difference between building a long-term sustainable dynasty versus a one-year hit and wonder. And that's why I love trading back. That's why I love controlling those middle rounds. That's why I'm talking about this. And I want to talk a little bit maybe about why I think the middle rounds are so valuable, right? And some of the players that I'm personally looking to go after in those middle rounds this year. So I've done a couple of startups now, and you know I'm in the middle of writing like a strategy guide on this, but you know there's a lot of value in those middle rounds, and it all comes back to the fact that those are the rounds where the true, like the next breakouts typically come from, right? If you think about like the AJ Browns and the DK Metcalf, like last year in rounds 3 to 6, like that's where they lived. That's where the AJ Browns and DK Metcalf lived. And if you think about the year before that, that's where the guys like the Chris Godwins and the DJ Moores and stuff like that, those guys who jumped in like the second round of startup drafts, that's where they lived as well. Especially like young, talented wide receivers who are primed for breaking out based on their collegiate profile and based on what they did in year one of the NFL. That's just where they're drafted. And that's why you want as many shots in there as possible, because those are the future guys that are going to give you second round startup draft capital, right? Those are the guys that are going to jump up like 3, 4, 5 rounds in ADP over the next couple of years. And some of those guys this year, one of them, I've already mentioned him already, but Brandon Ayuk, I've talked about him in prior podcasts, but he's someone that I wasn't high on coming in, right? Same thing with Chase Claypool. These are two guys that I find myself frequently jumping up to grab in like that 5th round, 6th round territory, right? And the reason why is because they have very, very high-end year one NFL production, and that is incredibly sticky from year to year. Guys are produced, wide receivers, young wide receivers produced in year one typically go on to become studs. And specifically, if we think about one of my favorite charts done by Jacob at Clutch Fantasy on Twitter, you know, he lists out all the wide receivers that have like, you know, that have the top end season. And it's the guys that break out and put up a top 24 season that go on to produce wide receiver one after wide receiver one after wide receiver one season. And wouldn't you know it, Chase Claypool is one of those guys that produced a top 24 season. Chase Claypool and Justin Jefferson, both of them are the only two rookie wide receivers last year that produced, except one of them is going in like the first, second round of startup drafts, and the other one's going in the 6th, right? And I get it. People don't like his profile. People don't like his touchdowns. People don't like people don't like how he broke out, right? But fact of the matter is, Claypool's a motherfucking beast, all right? I was wrong on him. I was totally wrong on him. I whiffed on him hard. I said something stupid like, I'd rather have KJ Hamler than Chase Claypool. Duh, I'm a freaking idiot, right? But I'm pivoting. I'm trying to pivot and learn. Look, when I'm wrong, but I'm trying to pivot and correct the mistakes that I've made in the past so I can take advantage of the future. And the beautiful thing about missing on someone like a Claypool is because there were other people, a lot of people similar to me who hated Chase Claypool, except the only difference is they're not really looking to like adjust their priors. They're still kind of stuck with well, he only got there because of X, Y, Z, and that's not sustainable. And look, that might be the case, right? But the upside is so high on someone like a Chase Claypool. Someone like we've seen like a DK Metcalf build, like what these elite athletes can do if they prove to be good. And everything we've seen from Chase Claypool has told me that he's a freaking stud. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about Chase Claypool because we've already, covered him a little bit in the prior draft, in the prior episode. But those are two of the wide receivers that I'm targeting in those middling rounds, right? And I talked about another one. One of the quarterbacks I'm targeting in those middle rounds. Obviously, one of them is always Ryan Tannehill in the third or fourth round because he's a freaking stud. And if you're on any contending team, like let's say you went, Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley at the top of the draft, wrapping around with Ryan Tannehill is one of the best QB1 scenarios you can have, right? But two, Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson, again, just not someone that I was really high on before the draft. But just given what's happened and given the discount that he's being shown compared to a Justin Fields or Trey Lance, who are often going in the first or second round of startup picks, while Zach Wilson's fallen in the third or fourth round, even though he's the second QB off the board. And there's enough guys in the film community who I trust that are telling me that this guy has incredible arm talent, and he has the upside to he has high bust chance, but he also has very high upside. And, I think in those rounds, that's really kind of what you're shooting for at the quarterback position. So Zach Wilson, Ryan Tannehill, a couple of staples of mine, Chase Claypool, Brandon Ayuk on the wide receiver side. And then, so those are some of the younger guys, with the exception of Ryan Tannehill. But in terms of veterans, man, there's incredible value veteran. And there is no better value than Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas, 2 years ago, led the NFL in receptions by a wide margin. He was the wide receiver one, the Dynasty wide receiver one. He proved what he could do with Drew Brees. He proved what he could do with Teddy Bridgewater. Even last year with Taysom Hill, who's still rocking a 30% market share. Michael Thomas has proven to us that he is one of the more QB-proof wide receivers, if that exists. Obviously, you want him with Drew Brees, but if Jameis Winston comes in the fold, I don't see why Michael Thomas can't provide top 5 upside again. All right, so he's just another guy that I think people are completely overlooking. And one of the things is people think about productive struggles, as I mentioned last week, they think they can't draft anyone that's old. And that's not really the case. You're trying to draft guys that can increase in value, right? And more often than not, those are not the old guys. But that does not mean that none of the old guys are worth drafting. So Michael Thomas is another one who I think just in the 5th round, he's been falling in the 5th round of starter picks. It's just an auto draft because at some point in the season, a contending team is going to be looking for a wide receiver. Maybe one of these contending teams has a stud young wide receiver, but isn't putting up the type of numbers that they need. Maybe they have a T. Higgins from last year, right, who was putting up 900 yards as a rookie, which is incredible for a rookie. But not necessarily championship winning, not necessarily someone that's going to make the weekly impact for you. So in season, you could make a trade, something like a Michael Thomas for one of those guys plus a future rookie pick, right? And so to me, it's I'm drafting Michael Thomas and it's June. Maybe I'm protected struggle. Maybe I don't need him. But at some point, someone's going to need this freaking stud. And when they do, I'm going to cash out for more than whatever I drafted him at, which is the 5th round pick in a startup draft, right? So that's another guy who I'm a big proponent of drafting. I'm trying to get him everywhere. I'm trading for him in my contending leagues. I'm drafting him everywhere. So it's just, elite guys don't just delete themselves after a year. Michael Thomas had an injury, COVID, all that shit happened last year. He's supposed to get surgery this offseason. He has not gotten it. Thank you to whoever pointed that out to me in the YouTube comments the other day. He has not gotten it yet, so I don't know if he's going to get it or whatever. But at the end of the day, when Michael Thomas is healthy, he's one of the elite wide receivers in the league. There is just no doubt about that, all right? So don't shy away from drafting him. And then another guy falling into the 3rd round of drafts, sometimes in the 4th, rarely, but sometimes in the early 4th, is DeAndre Swift. People are freaking out about DeAndre Swift, but for me, I'm just going to bet on the talent. DeAndre Swift is someone that can see 70 receptions, right? 70 receptions in the running back position, unless you freaking suck and don't do anything else on the goal line, which we know that's not DeAndre Swift, is going to be an RB1, right? That's just the numbers. That's just how it's going to play out. So I get it. The team sucks. Normally, I don't like going for running backs on teams that suck either. But the fact that he's going to get he's in line for so many receptions just makes him extremely, extremely attractive. But the reason why I really, really like DeAndre Swift is because after you've traded out of the 1st and 2nd round, typically you don't have access to these high upside young stud running backs anymore. But because where the market is at on DeAndre Swift, and because where it's soured, people just hate him. I still have DeAndre Swift, in my opinion, as a 1st round talent in startup drafts. But I don't have to draft him there. I haven't drafted him there because you don't have to. That's not what the market thinks. So follow where the market is. And the market right now has him as, probably around a middling 3rd round pick in startup drafts. And opening a draft with DeAndre Swift still leaves you with possibilities, right? Like I said, man, my hero, Bruce Lee, always says, be water.
Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup. it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now, water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
Right, and being water is about remaining flexible in the top 3 rounds of the draft. So you can trade out of the first round, trade out of the second round, draft DeAndre Swift, and the world is still your fucking oyster. You can draft young wide receivers, you can draft veterans, you can contend, you can not contend, you can do whatever the fuck you want, right? And that's the key, and that's really why I like someone like a DeAndre Swift as well, because I think the value is going to come correct on him. Like, once people see what he is, which is a stud that has 3-down skill set, bell cow size, bell cow ability, and can actually take over the backfield, people are going to smarten up, and he's going to go up, and he's going to go up. Even on bad teams, some guys can produce. Like Austin Eckler, Chargers have not been I would call them like a very good team for the past few years. But Austin Eckler's produced because he has a dominant share in the receiving game. And I think that's exactly what DeAndre Swift can offer you. So those are some of the main guys that I'm really looking to capture in those middle rounds and leave my drafts with. So there are obviously others as well. You can check out my ranks on the Patreon to see like where I have guys ranked above and below consensus. But for now, as I'm going through the drafts, I'm realizing that these are the places where I can really, really like, squeeze the juice, right, so to speak. And then, maybe one more guy I'll throw in there is Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson, everyone's worried about the rookie quarterback. To be fair, I am also concerned. Rookie quarterbacks coming in aren't necessarily the greatest thing for veteran wide receivers, right? But, I mean, Justin Fields versus like Mitch Trubisky is a little bit of a step up for me. So it's hard for me to get off of Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson, again, is going in like the 5th, 6th round. So Allen Robinson, Michael Thomas, Mike Evans, like these are 3 top veteran wide receivers who have wide receiver, like top 5, top 8 wide receiver upside, and they're going in the 5th, 6th round. So that's why you can trade back, stay flexible, and still choose to win now if you can while still adding rookie capital. And it's a beautiful year to do this, because you're able to take advantage of where people are reaching and how people are going up to get quarterbacks. And you know what? Just take advantage, man. Like I always say, look, just make sure you stay flexible, be water, and don't go into a draft fixated on any one thing. Don't go into a draft and be like, I'm going to for sure do a productive struggle. Don't go into a draft saying, I'm for sure going to win. Like, that's not how I come out of these productive struggles. I go into a draft, I read the room, and based on the room, they'll tell you if you can do a productive struggle. They'll tell you if you can do a contend to win now team. If you go in a draft and 11 people immediately go in the chat and start saying, I'm willing to trade back, chances are you're not going to have a great trading back experience, because it's just going to be guys lowballing each other to trade back, right? So in those types of scenarios, like, take the value that falls to you and draft some good players and look to play them down the road. And then conversely, if you go into the draft and you see guys like trading up left and right and people are throwing out offers, then the water is warm for you to go in there and jump in and do your thing, right? So always, always, always be flexible. That's what the mantra is for anything that I'm doing in fantasy football. I'm just trying to stay flexible and trying to just, account for the variance. Try and prepare for the variance. Not account for the variance. Try and prepare for the variance, because the variance is going to hit you, man. We can't control the variance hit you, whether it's injuries, whether it's players sucking, whether it's players busting, whether it's players unexpectedly hitting, whatever it is, right? Those are certain factors that you cannot control. But having a flexible strategy and controlling and dominating those middle rounds is going to set yourself up in order to take those hits and punches much better than anyone else can. And that's really how I approach the game. And, is it the right way to do it? For me, it's worked. It's worked for me beautifully, and it's worked for me a lot better than any other strategy that I've tried to employ. So I do it, more often than not. But hopefully it's working for you guys. And hopefully this episode was helpful to give you a little bit of insight of the types of moves and the types of trades that I go through in my startups to trade back and then trade up to get my guys, right? It's a 2-pronged attack. It's not just constantly trading back and never moving up. It's trading back, but then, waiting and praying on the times that are right for you to go up and get your guys, right? That's all I got for you guys this week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'll be back with you guys again next week for another Market Watch Mondays. We'll be having the bi-weekly show with Noah and myself as well coming up this week, so be on the lookout for that. And like I said, if you guys want to become Dynasty Degens and just really, really step up your Dynasty game and just go all in and become like game theory specialists and just crush your leagues, hop on over to the Wolfpack Patreon, patreon.com/ourpack. We're in there. We're grinding. I'm constantly talking with the Patreon members. They're giving me suggestions for show ideas. We're talking strategy. Also, we got the Alphas Only League that's going to be coming up this month. So I'm working through, like, thinking through the rules and how I want to set that up. But that's going to be coming this month as well. And you have to be an alpha member in order to be in the drawing to be selected to be part of that league. So, again, man, hop on over there, join us. We're looking forward to welcoming you to the pack. If not, no hard feelings. Thank you all anyways for still tuning into my videos. Trust me, I appreciate you. I appreciate the real supporters out there that are supporting me any way that you guys can, supporting the BDG brand any way you guys can. Love you guys. Appreciate y'all. I'm out. Happy 4th of July, and enjoy your time with the family, man. Peace.